Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Dry Side Dispatch, brought to you by HSI Water. We're back here again today, and Tillery will be here. She is just running late. As the boss, that is her prerogative. She can do that kind of thing. She can do that. Now, Andy doesn't have an excuse. He's off in where it's nice and cool and cold and enjoying things. But we're here today with Todd Baughman from the Texas AgriLife Extension again, and thank you for coming back, Todd. I really appreciate it. I know that uh, everything to do with agriculture is tense and annoying right now.
To say the least, it's not a lot of fun.
We were just talking before we came on the air about how when June hit, I thought it's one of those times. June hits, I get 5 inches of rain. I think, oh, it's never good. The climate is this is the kind of climate change I can get behind. I always wonder why it is that when climate changes, how come it never gets better? I mean, like I know that based upon the amount of oil here, there used to be all sorts of organic material out here. I'd sure like to see that again.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting you talk about that because we've had two of the exact opposites on two of our stations. We've had 7 inches at La Mesa at our Ag Cares facility since June, and we've had less than an inch at our Lubbock Center. And in fact, I was talking to our farm manager, and he was telling me last night at the center we've had less rain this year than in 2011.
Oh my gosh. Well, so I always tell people what the weather is like in West Texas because in 2011 the vineyard I had on the east side of Brownfield, I got 2.5 inches of rain. That's measured out of a rain gauge. That's me being an OCD farmer checking that rain gauge. I got 2.5 inches of rain. Now in 2010 I had 33.5 inches of rain in 2010. So I had our average rainfall
Yes,
in each year.
scattered over 2 years, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like the story Reagan used to tell about the Secretary of Agriculture going to Kansas, and he was having a farm meeting, and they were there was a bunch of farmers there complaining about how dry it was and how terrible it was the year that been. It was in like December. He's like how terrible it'd been, and what kind of drought they are. And he looked at it and he said, "Wait." The ag department was looking at it, and he said, "Wait a second. I show here where y'all got 18 inches of rain last year." And that farmer said, "That's right." And I remember the day it fell.
Exactly. No, and unfortunately, I remember back to Oklahoma Mesonet has a guy that writes a little blurb every day, and I still remember him talking about when we get in one of these patterns that with the lack of moisture in the soil, then this heat just builds on itself.
Yeah.
There's no way for that soil to absorb any of this heat, which gives us a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
It's just basically all reflective, and so we just get in this pattern, and until we get a rain to get some soil moisture to help absorb some of that heat, it's really tough to break out. And then you were talking about the
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at if you're interested in agriculture at all, the West Texas Mesonet is an awesome thing, and it has expanded beyond West Texas now. I mean, they've had one in like Colorado for eons, but there's a lot of stuff that through the big country down into the western hill country, and you can really track who's getting rain, what kind of rain they've gotten. But one of the things you can look at is the 8-inch soil temperature, and I looked at the Welch station yesterday, and this was probably 9:15 in the morning. The 8-inch soil temperature was 90 degrees. At 8 inches, it was 90 degrees. I'm like, that's warm.
yes,
And you do get in that pattern. It's unfortunate that the way that the geography and the continental climate works is that you get into a dry pattern and it builds on itself, but a wet pattern doesn't necessarily build on itself. You got to have some help coming either out of the Gulf or out of Baja to pump some moisture into this thing. And they're talking about that super El Nino. And I've mentioned before on this thing that my theory on El Nino is with El Nino it doesn't rain as much, and with La Nina it's a drought. And so like we get it coming and going on that. But there are a lot of models that are showing, hey, we could break out this thing, we could get some good rains in here. But it's been interesting looking at the Mesonet and spending and obsessing over different things and looking at. The best rainfall has obviously been off the Cap and the Rolling Plains, and Rolling Plains is that way. What's up towards Amarillo, off the Cap, and it's wild how we have not had there's been a lot of rain in that area, and some of the sites are sitting at 17 inches, and some of them are sitting at 3. But looking at just all of it overall, we haven't had a really broad general rain.
That's exactly what I was talking to somebody. I don't remember the last like cloud that say went from Dumas to Midland.
Yeah.
And we used to get those big clouds, and that's what really what would bring us some moisture. They're either spotty or they're thin lines. There's not just that big giant cloud that goes from here to Tulsa once it hits.
Right. Yeah. And it's not like it's been decades since that occurred. I believe we had one. I think we had one last year. Well, I know we did because there was hail in it in places and stuff, and so. But it's when you start dealing with weather forecasting and then climate stuff, and it was really interesting watching one of the YouTube meteorologists, which you get a YouTube meteorologist not going, does this guy really know what he's talking about? But if you go that if you're not talking with somebody with the National Weather Service, that's always a legitimate guess. You're like, I know there are meteorologists that started off as news anchors, and they needed somebody to fill in, and all of a sudden, lo and behold, we have a meteorologist.
Yes.
But he was talking about it, and he was showing all these different models and trying to compare. This is not the super El Nino that they're making a big fuss about right now. It's not the first time in history. It has the potential to be the strongest one that we've recorded, but it's not the first time it happened. And so he took like the 3 most recent, let's see, it was 82, no, it was like 82, 83, 96, 97, and then like 15, 16 or something like that. It was the same when we had the same kind of, a pretty strong, and he did that, and he was like comparing them.
Hi, y'all.
Hi, Tillery.
There.
For those of you watching, Tillery just came in. But he compared those 3, and then he compared this one. He's like, okay. And then he took every different thing that they measured, the temperature oscillation in the Indian Ocean, something else off the coast, all these different things, and none of it lined up. He's like, so I can tell you there's a chance that something's going to happen. And I'm like, well, he's drawing it.
Exactly. Well, and if we think back probably a year or better, it was going to be here this spring.
Yep.
Then it kind of got pushed back, and now we're into fall.
Yeah.
I hope at some point they're right that we're going to get it.
Yeah. Now they're like, well, it's going to be last quarter, October, November, December, and I'm not going. And then I heard somebody, and as somebody that's outside, and it's very easy to obsess over it and start digging through it until you find like 8,000 different opinions, and you have analysis paralysis, and you don't know what's going on. And it's just the same as if you can watch all the weather forecasts and not know what's going on, or you can watch none of them and not know what's going on and not worry about it. And so, so you're kind of in the same boat in that thing. But nobody really knows. The one I heard I heard one outlier that was saying, well, this could be this is going to come in. It's going to be in January. And I'm not going, dude, if it makes it to January, it's not going to be a thing. It's just going to be just something else we talk about.
Right.
Oh, this was this way, and it didn't rain. But you know what? It was that way, 4 years, back this time, and it rained a lot. But I am heartened by the fact that there, at least when you look at the map, most of the projections are actually showing us to be at least kind of green, which indicates moisture. So I'm like, I like that when we're above average precipitation.
Oh, I totally agree. And of course, that on another note of that, that's where I always struggle with crop prediction models. Mm-hmm. Because just like this El Nino prediction,
right?
Yeah.
Or I go back to 2 years ago, the 3 weeks of 100-degree weather in August.
Yep.
If you used that prediction that was a model that predicted probably July 1st, you'd be throwing everything at the crop, and all of a sudden it fell apart. And I don't know if we'll ever get to the point that model can predict weather enough to really help us.
Well, and that's why I think that I was in D.C. and Maryland visiting with NASA, and we got to do some great tours and see some of the stuff that's coming out, and long range the tools that they are going to be launching for long range forecasts they're going to be game changing.
Well, that would be great, because to me that's been the missing component to help us make to be able to use a model
if we don't cut
to
the
help
budget,
us make some of those
if they don't cut the budget by 2/3, and They don't get to launch them.
I got to give you 38 trillion reasons why budgets need to be cut. That's the sad thing about it.
Yeah.
I mean, God Almighty. I mean, we've done a great job of just. Well, I can't say it that way on the air. Never mind.
Yeah.
But you know, that kind of stuff is.
But that kind of stuff saves money in the end.
Yeah, I mean, if you could more accurately predict the long range weather. I mean, right now, I mean, the old Farmer's Almanac, which this was the last year for publication of the
That's
Farmer's
right.
Almanac.
That is correct.
It'll still be available online, but it will no longer be available in print. So if you're in Tractor Supply or someplace like that, and they've got the Farmer's Almanac, buy one so you can show your kids. See, this is how we used to do it.
What it
It was just
actually
as
looked
accurate.
like.
It was just as accurate as anything else.
Yes.
And it's literally. I mean, I pulled it a couple of years, and I always just get it on a lark. You know, I don't ever base anything on it, but it's cool to see. And you're like looking at it and like, well, you know, they're right as often as they're wrong, which is the same as everybody else. But if you could improve the long range forecast, where you can go out 3 or 4 months and say, okay, listen, it's going to be dry out here. You know, then you have the opportunity then to make policy. Hey, if this says X, you don't have to do anything.
Right.
And you can collect, you collect your disaster on it, and don't spend anything, don't put anything out, just and cut back on, because I've been faced with I'm not sure if it's an opportunity or a curse of looking at trying to see if I was going to pick up a half section of dry land to farm. And I started running a spreadsheet, and the vineyard spreadsheet is one thing. I've done vineyards, like I said, for almost 30 years now. And this would be my personal first foray into cotton since '94 or '5. So it's been a day or two. And so I built a spreadsheet, and I call in my buddies that do stuff. And Andy has farmed quite enough, and I've helped him in part of our operation. But as far as digging down into the spreadsheet, so I'm building a spreadsheet and looking at it and trying to see. And I'm not going, okay, if cotton prices don't go down, which I looked at them yesterday, and I think it was 87 cents. If it doesn't go down, I'll only lose $15 an acre on my spreadsheet.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, so I asked a buddy of mine he's getting ready to retire, and I said, how do you make it? And he said, well, here's my break even. He said, my operation, my break even is 80 cents. And he said, if I make my average yield at 80 cents, I'll break even. Anything I make over that, poundage-wise or price-wise, is profit. And I'm not going, how do you live? He said, oh, you don't. He said, you just try to break even and collect and then the government
And then you
check,
hope the government check comes in. It's going to come in later, and you never know.
And that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing about it is nobody wants to farm that way.
No.
Well, no, and I go back to when I started at Vernon, worked with the ag economist Stan Beavers, and if I remember correctly, a dryland wheat budget was about $80 an acre, and a dryland cotton budget was about 100 to 120. So let's say even 120.
Okay.
Well, if you made 250 pounds at 50 cents, you made $5 an acre. On that budget, but you made money. That's it, and that was on the low end. Obviously, if you made a better yield.
Yeah.
But even unless you just had a total disaster,
Yeah.
you had an opportunity to make money on that crop.
Yeah.
And I'd say, that was when we grew 1 million acres in the rolling plains.
Yep.
Because that $80 wheat budget was a lot more iffy.
Yeah.
To be able to make money on it. So cotton was the crop that year in and year out,
Yeah.
You could rely on.
Yeah, you can count.
Yes.
Well, now, I don't know what the dryland budget is, but it's nowhere close to 120.
Well,
I guess you just
I was talking. That was a text from Andy who texted. He just texted us from the crabbing boat he's on off the coast of Canada.
Bless his
somewhere.
heart. Jerk.
It's good to have friends. That's all I'll say. Network so you can know people that have boats. That's the thing.
There you go.
Because the 2 happiest days in a man's life is the day he buys his boat and the day he sells his boat.
Exactly, yes.
But, no, I was looking at it, and, I was using, when we started this year, we were in the 65-cent range, I think, is what the cotton market was looking at right then. And so it's gone up substantially since then. So, it seems, and this is, it's one of those things you get stuck in your head and you don't know if, I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm like going, I'm just going to slap 65 cents in this thing and it's just a sale. I can change that number to whatever. But it's, my buddy was telling me, and this is an operation that he has no land payment. He has no equipment payment. His only overhead is he has one guy that works for him, probably 35 hours a week, and he rents one of his farms. He rent one of the farms he owns. He pays rent on. And so he was like, "You're talking about $40 an acre for seed, and it's $40 an acre to keep it clean. On top of that." And I was like, "Okay." And he said, "Planting it's going to cost him $20 to plant it." And so that's $100 right there. Well, 240 pounds, which is a bale's 480 pounds for those of you who don't know. Which I don't know why it's 480, but that's a whole other.
I guess we can break out Wikipedia one day and have a whole discussion on
Exactly.
that.
Yeah, I've grown cotton. I've been around. I've grown it or been around it my whole life, and I don't know why a bale of cotton's 480 pounds. But it probably has something to do with a piece of equipment they had in 1845. Or
I'm
something
guessing
like
maybe the first press. That's what size they happen to roll them out of.
So. But so you go through that, and it was 40 for seed, 40 for the chemicals, $20 an acre to plant. He said that's about what it cost him to break even running his equipment, about $20, and that's got it planted. That does not. So every time I go across it, it's about $20 with diesel. I mean diesel. Road diesel at Brownfield right now at the Farmers Co-op is $4.99 and 99 cents. So
Yeah.
it's $5 for road diesel down there. So farm diesel is going to be in the $4.20 range, probably down there. And so you don't have it listed. You haven't stopped. You didn't cut your stalks. You haven't listed it. You haven't done anything else to it. And so you start running into that deal. Well, the 65 something, it was either 60 or 65 cents I used. It was $156 in gross revenue an acre is what you were looking at a half a bale.
Yeah.
And so I'm like going, wait a second, I lost money. I'm like sitting here trying to, what does that number have to be a break even? And and a lot of times, at least fortunately now, with the cotton prices up, if a guy's tech savvy enough and willing to do it, you can at least lock in your price now.
Yeah.
Where you're, back in the spring, if you were to try to do the same thing, all you're doing is locking in a loss.
Yeah, no, exactly. Now, this has been a little bit like, it probably was 10 or 15 years ago, where the price was around 50 or 60 cents going in.
Yeah.
And it was like, why are we planting it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, this same time of year, that year, it hit $1.
Yes, exactly.
And the big deal was, at least people I was talking to, it was like there was no explanation why either.
Yeah.
It was not a direct thing you could point to, and I think even a little bit now. I mean, I know maybe stocks are down a little bit, but it's not like, we pulled a whole lot off of this crop for it to change that much. But thank goodness for the guys that do have a crop that it has moved.
Well, there's, first part of July, driving from Brownfield to Lubbock and back and everything, I was seeing some very pretty cotton crops. There were some really pretty cotton crops, and I went past one the other day that was brown. And that means it hit permanent wilting point, and then we got that little shower on it, and it just fried it all. It was gone. Which is, it's heartbreaking. You hate to see it. You really do, because even if a farmer is is ambivalent to whether the cotton market blows, but I've got to do this anyway. There's still, the amount of stress that puts on a guy is, I think isn't agriculture one of the highest highest suicide rates.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the military and then agriculture.
Have you all seen the ZocDoc advertisement with the two auctioneers?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
It is hilarious. And I'm like, that is somebody who gets it. It's ZocDoc, I think, but it's about therapy counselors. They're looking for counselors, and they're looking all over the auction. That's what they're doing, and it's hilarious. And I'm like, that company knows. They know who needs it.
They can look at the demographic charts. Pretty good.
Yeah.
No, and you bring that up, and that'll kind of throw for our, so AgriLife has a Farm Hope program that works with suicide prevention, some opportunities for people to contact, people to discuss issues, and so you can Google Farm Hope. If you have those types of issues, free service, a lot of mental health help with that.
And for like even descendants of, so like your grandparents could have been in agriculture and they will still visit with you, and
Yes.
I mean, because I thought that was really interesting because our kids, went through it with bankruptcy with us and it was very impactful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, very impactful.
Well, I did not know that existed.
Yes,
That
and
is-
and
I'll
in
look up the
fact,
number.
unfortunately, I did not know that until a year ago, and it got brought up in a meeting, and we just kind of started, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, it's sitting here, and we actually hosted a meeting at Lubbock last December. It was scheduled in connection with estate planning.
Tiffany Lashmet's just been amazing at
Oh yeah,
getting that
her
together.
and Michaela Smith have done a tremendous job leading that effort and using that estate planning to kind of get people there.
Yeah.
So they don't, because
Right.
I mean, you think of all of us. The last thing we want to do is either one, in a lot of cases, we're kind of taught it's a weakness
Yes.
to admit we
Right.
have any mental health issues, and then the fear of somebody seeing you going into a meeting that
Right.
was. But if you go in estate planning.
Right,
And then you
exactly.
get that additional help.
Exactly.
And so that
Yes.
plan and that thought process
That's
was just
just-
amazing
yeah.
that they came together
Right.
and put those two things together.
So the number for that organization is 979-436-0700. 979-436-0700.
Yeah, I was looking at this.
Yes, yeah. You can call that and they get you all set up and the folks that are doing that counseling, they're ag folks. They get it.
Yeah, I think that's the big key is it's people that understand what what potentially you are going through. I mean, none of us can ever know exactly what an individual.
And I think even, just even if it's not, I feel like, I'm suicidal or anything like that, but it's like it's smart to me to think, how do I need to be talking to this about my kids, to my family? How do I need to support, the people around me? Even if you don't feel like you're the one that needs the help, it really is, smart to get some ideas on how to walk through the process,
Yeah, I think a couple things they do. One is obviously it's stress also, not
Yes.
not just
Yeah.
suicide.
Exactly.
So there's some
All of it.
opportunity to help there.
Yes.
And then also there some of that they even talk about tools on helping you recognize that in another individual, a friend,
Exactly.
a brother, sister.
I think education
nephew.
is so important.
Yeah.
Well, there's so much about there's so much about handling stress and what stress has effects on the human body, and not just the mind, but the human body itself.
Yes.
That we've learned over the last decade or 2 decades or so. I think it's gone a long ways. In there that most people don't dig into the weeds enough to learn that stuff. And there are tools and not like physical tools, but there's like mental tools, mental tricks that you can do to help to change behavior and how you handle things. It's not, stress is always going to be with us. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. You're going to be under stress, but it's how you handle the stress and process the stress and function through the stress.
Well, and I think the shame has come from because we have assigned blame for our body's response to things and our mental response to things when it's just actually biological much more so than it is I choose to make this response. And once the pathways are built and responding away as in childhood, it's very difficult to get out of those pathways,
Yeah. It's difficult, but it's not impossible if you can.
No, it's not.
But if you don't know another way to handle something,
right. One of the best books out there, and this is a nerdy book because it's a big one, is The Body Keeps the Score. And that was really the book that started the conversation about what causes this response. He was the guy that figured out that, this is a brain response,
Well, you get stress. Stress causes inflammation. Inflammation causes thousands of problems in the body. I mean, from heart disease
Right.
to hardening the arteries to cancers that respond to. I mean, there's a lot of.
I I
of
I am I took a class from this guy. This has been probably 15 years ago, and what shocked me the most was he was saying that mothers that are under stress during pregnancies, that their children actually have the same hormone response as if they were in war. Like they're literally
Yeah.
bodies are born thinking that they're in a danger zone, because the body is preparing that child for the
But
stress,
again,
and
the
it's
thing about-
generational.
But again, it's if you're in that spot, don't despair. The most
There
important thing is you
is-
just don't know what you
Right.
don't know.
Yes.
And that's the thing. That's the thing that most people get. That I don't know what I don't know. And when you realize that you don't know what you don't know, then you can start finding an answer and help that'll let you.
Well, and also to know that there's even if you go through bankruptcy, like there is another side of it. And I mean, farm bankruptcy is different from, and I know that other people are attached to their
Yeah.
businesses or jobs, but when you're the one that it ends here for,
Decades.
you're
Centuries.
centuries probably. It lands different. It just lands different. And it's because it's also not just your job. It is your entire way of life and your culture and everything.
Well, it's who you are.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about it is you don't just lose your livelihood, you lose your identity.
Yes.
I'm a farmer.
Well, yeah, and I think so many of us were either brought up or that we can just work through this.
Oh, yeah, you just
when
pull
you take
yourself
the
up
situations
bootstraps.
like we're facing now, both like the cost of a budget to put a crop in, the price for the crop now, and then the weather. There's a lot of things that are in agriculture, especially, that are 100% out of our control.
Yep.
So working harder's
Not gonna-
you can
Right.
be working
Well, and
harder than anybody and not
even-
get yourself
Well, that's the
out.
thing about it is you can do everything right. You can sit there and do everything right, and one rain in Argentina ruins your spreadsheet and ruins everything you've done.
Yeah. Well, and I think even, when you think about past generations and you look at the things that they've been through, they went through a lot of really hard and difficult things. But they also didn't carry X million dollars worth of debt. You know what I mean? And
Well,
I'm not dismissing the horror, but I think it's easy for us to put what we go through now and what they went through on a scale, and they outweigh us because the depression, because of all of these things, but the expectations on us and the provisions that we have to make now to be part of and to keep our families part of society is very different.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at it, it's obviously in real dollar. I mean, in real dollars, it's not as glaring as it would seem. But it's still, it takes let's say 1930, $100 was a big deal. Well, that same $100 is not a big deal now, but $10,000 is a pretty big deal. I mean, so you're kind of it's whatever that scale is. I don't know what the scale works out, but it's still, you don't have it easier going through bankruptcy now than they did then.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's not just what it takes to get by; it's what society expects you to have.
That's what I'm trying to say.
And so you go through, and if you're, in 1947, and you went broke farming, and you're went and got a job at, shoveling hay or tromping cotton or something like that, and your family is living, like mom and pop, my grandparents, they made underwear out of toe sacks, and that's what they did. But that was just everybody,
Everybody was doing it.
yeah.
It's kind of
My
like
grandparents
COVID.
actually- yeah.
When COVID happened, it was like it kind of leveled the playing field for everybody. You know what I mean? And everybody, that community, and I don't know. I think that's something that I wish that we'd have been able to keep that came out of COVID, was that sense of camaraderie across. It didn't last very long.
Well, it also didn't realize
community.
how important food is. We've
Yeah.
already forgotten that lesson.
Absolutely.
Like at that
Yes.
point, it was like, we have to do better. and now it's like, oh, we're better.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
Yeah,
We
it's
just have such short
I
memories.
think the thing that annoys me the most that went away, and this is talking about not going in during World War II, they had victory gardens. Everybody had a victory garden. Everybody's backyard was a garden. And now nobody's backyard. I mean, there's like one in 150 houses or 250 houses. They'll have rose bushes. They'll have magnolia trees or whatever in there, and like, hey, you know what? Plant some black eyed peas.
I know. I have not had a garden since we moved to town, and I think about it a lot. Just wonder. But I know one of the facts I heard a couple weeks ago was like 1.2% of our food comes from within 500 miles of us.
I wouldn't doubt it. Well,
Yeah.
I mean that's I have no doubt that if you think about what we grow here.
But you have to make an effort, like, and that's the thing. I mean, I think HEB does a pretty good job keeping us, and I think United too, like trying to buy from folks that are local, But, I know our friends at Frontier Market have been getting some backlash because they're commercial growers. They have 35 acres of vegetable production. That is really, we need to have Leighton back on and just,
What's so funny about that is, like,
we want to have local
do
production,
math. Do math.
but we're going to, like, it has to look the way we want it to look.
It's
I
like, hey,
don't understand.
I'll grow an acre of something, and you can come pick your own. It's just going to cost you $50 a pound for black eyed peas because I got to make enough money for that to do something. If there's economies of scale is a real thing. And you have to, if a guy wants to, if a family wants to live on $110,000 or $150,000, which, I mean, I think it's, well, let's just do, I think that the average household is roughly 75,000. Okay, if you want to make 75,000 and you want to grow, I mean, that's all, everything's paid but the taxes and maybe a car payment and a house payment. Okay, let's say that you got a car payment and a house payment and that. Okay, and you're going to make 75,000. Well, those black-eyed peas are going to be expensive if you've only got 5 acres of them, and you're trying to make $75,000.
Well, and I think it
off
also
5
points
acres.
to, like, the skill that he has.
Yeah,
And that is such a, it is, to me, it's insulting to say you are, I mean, because it's intended to me, it seems like it's intended to be some kind of slight that you're not really a local producer because you're commercial. And all he's done is diversified so that they could stay on the farm, and you'd rather it doesn't look the way you want it to look.
Well,
and so,
I mean, there's sacks of hammers that are smarter than the people that are complaining about that.
I can't. It's unbelievable.
And if the person was complaining, I'd tell them to their face they're dumb as a sack of rocks. But
well, and I think it's probably, to me, it's like probably competition from maybe smaller, little spots, but people that it's maybe something that they're doing on the side, or and I mean, he is a skilled farmer.
Yeah.
And to think that somebody can just like pick that up and be like, well, I can do what he can do, and I will be local.
Yeah.
If I'm, 1 acre, but
and that, I think people they overestimate what yield is, and they underestimate how hard it is.
Well, I don't know exactly what happened. I
hard it
just
is.
read a post that, and I thought they handled it very graciously. Like he was just saying, hey, this is who we are.
Yeah.
Well,
and the thing that's to me, that's like, it really bugs me when like politicians or people that are like heads of organizations and stuff complain about corporate farming. Corporate farming is,
I feel like that's what they're trying to say.
Yes.
It's they're like, well, it's a corporate farm. Like the government, the way it's set up, every family farm is a corporation.
But who you're saying at the same time, it's like you think we're hayseeds.
Yeah.
But guess what? You know why we're corporate farmers? Because we want tax breaks. We want corporate laws to protect our. I mean, everybody starts an LLC.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and not just farmers.
Yeah. But it's like, that's the biggest, like, oh, we don't want a corporate farmer to, I was listening to the a candidate for the ag commissioner of Iowa, oddly enough, on one of the podcasts I listened to. And he was talking about, and he was railing pretty hard against corporate farmers. And what everybody thinks in their head when they
Yes.
say corporate farmers is Monsanto farming land.
That's
You know,
that's exactly
Yes.
right. That's what
Or
they think.
Microsoft.
Or Microsoft.
Yes, right, yeah.
And,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
they're like, Microsoft is the biggest landowner, or Bill Gates is one of the biggest landowners, and I'm like going, okay, he doesn't farm any of that. He probably rents it out. It's probably all rented out. He's just a landlord. Okay. But, I mean, you look at, when I first got out of college, I worked for ConAgra under the UAP Southwest, which is no longer, they spun it off, sold it off to private capital, and it's, done what everything that's ever been bought by private equity does. They run it to the ground and then, piece it out. But, so I worked for ConAgra at that time, had 90,000 U.S. employees. And I had fantastic health insurance for them. Thank God they had 90,000 people, because it cost me almost nothing to have twin boys born. And it was a high-risk pregnancy, and would have been really expensive. But ConAgra at that time did everything but farm, because that was the only part of the supply chain that they couldn't control risk on.
Yep.
They
Yes.
controlled risk
Right.
all the way up,
Right.
but they could not farm it. And I don't know to this day. I think that one of the peanut buying points was it Cargill, not Cargill. Anyway, I don't
Birdsong?
remember. Well, it wasn't. It's who
One of
owns
the big ones?
Birdsong now.
I don't know. I'll look.
I think
I
Birdsong's
thought-
still
I
owned. I
think
think
there's-
it's
I thought it's
Golden.
still
that's-
family.
Golden, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, because I was like,
was owned by. I'm not sure if they still are or not, but yeah.
But they tried to go to Brazil and farm a bunch of peanuts on their own down there. That was true corporate farming. That was a big corporation. Went down there and as near as I can remember, they lost their hind parts in about 2 years and come back and said, yeah, we're just going to farm the farmer again.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was in North Carolina, I think it was Del Monte, but it was one of the big vegetable groups, broke out a bunch of blackland country, like 20,000 acres. And we're going to basically use that to farm their vegetables. And just like you said, realize real quickly within a short, 3 to 5 years that this is not what we do. We buy the vegetables and can them and freeze them.
And that's the thing about it is, like, even back in I think that our family's corporation started in the early 90s.
it was in the
late
90s.
Late 80s, early 90s.
Probably in the late 80s, early 90s. Very late 80s.
I think it was late 80s, because I was not old enough to be put on anything on it. And so we were, from one day to the next, nothing changed. I mean, we still had to get up. One morning I got up and milked cows and took care of the bottle calves and made sure they were taken care of and fed the chickens. And you know what I did the next day after we did that? The same damn thing. Pardon me.
Well, and I
First
think
time in 20 odd episodes.
no, but and I mean, we all know. I mean, what everybody would think is a classical family farm.
Yes.
That is incorporated
Absolutely.
because of tax breaks. Maybe it was because one family member was no longer going to be a part, but they deserved a portion of that inheritance.
Right.
And it was easiest to incorporate that rather than
Liability.
try to buy them out.
Number one thing is liability.
Yeah.
You can keep your homestead separate. You could keep a house separate from it, and if something went tragically wrong on the farm, you didn't have to worry about losing your house too.
Yeah. No, great point.
Exactly.
I mean, that's
exactly.
it's and it's one of the things that it's interesting that everybody will get hung up on and will complain about. The number one thing that anybody that does any kind of business consulting will tell you, the first thing they'll tell you to do is, well, you need to start a corporation.
Yes.
Or an LLC, or they vary from one advisor to another as to what structure it should be in, and it varies wildly with CPAs too. As someone who's married to a CPA, that I'll ask her. I said, well, what should I put this in? It doesn't matter. I'll figure it out. But I mean, that's the number one thing that's the first step that you should do is to start a corporation.
Yes.
And start a business in a legal business entity, whatever that business entity is. That needs to be set up. And people are so used to sound bites that corporate farming has gotten a bad rap, and that's. And now that's not to say that there aren't some massive corporate farms out there that are, that do skate on the edge of what's good.
Yeah.
But, every decision the farmer makes is based upon long-term viability of his business. Nobody goes out there and says, and for example, Iowa has got one of the highest cancer rates in the U.S.
Yeah.
And they also, their nitrate levels in their water are ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's corn country, lots of nitrogen goes on. There's very little, I have never heard anybody argue that it comes from anywhere other than ag. That's just the way it is. But the guy was like, well, we've just got to, we got to cut corn subsidies to ethanol so we can cut down ethanol and biofuel so that people drive the corn prices down so people quit planting corn. And he's like, well, think about it this way. He said, we bring in, we're import, I don't remember how many billions of dollars he said. I went back and looked it up because, and he was right, it was that number that he said. But let's just call it for, let's say $10 billion. We import $10 billion worth of agricultural products from Chile. If we didn't grow corn, we could grow that stuff here. You know what we import from Chile? Shellfish, mussels, fruit, citrus, nuts. You know how many of those are going to grow in Iowa?
Right.
Not a one of them.
Yeah.
And so you're locked in. Every region is locked in to some extent.
Yes.
On what they can do. The only outlier that I know of, and I'm sure there are smaller ones too, is the Central Valley of California. That is, I mean, if they could have continue to have unlimited water, that's the closest that you can come to the Garden of Eden in the United States.
Yeah, and you're going to get me off on a whole nother.
Well, somebody else needs to get on a soapbox. I've been on it for entirely too long.
Because I've talked to a number of people, and I'm definitely no expert on California or California politics, but it's a classic example of regulations, and the water's there. It's a distribution problem.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and I agree with you. It's a shame because it still is a mecca, no doubt.
Yeah.
But it could be even more so.
Yeah.
Well, it's
and I think people would think of that again.
Yeah. I actually interviewed a guy that's from California. He grew up on a dairy, worked in the dairy, then he was a regulator, and now he represents dairies. And so I wanted to talk to him about like how sometimes the right balance of regulation can fix a problem when you use the right tools because they told them they have to lower methane emissions at dairies, but then they actually said, here's the equipment to do it, and now we're going to create a market for it. And so they actually help them diversify.
Yeah.
But you don't see that happen very often.
No.
But it is a complicated problem in California because there are also a lot of people that choose to live there.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are. And I mean, listen, I've only been there twice. I've been through the Central Valley one time and looked at, I was at Dinuba, which, in case you're wondering where Dinuba is, you go to Fresno, which is not a really great place to go to, and you go south. But I was out there at, BASF had a research farm out there, and I went and looked at a new fungicide they were bringing on. And that was it was amazing to me. And then we went from there and drove up to Lodi and then on into Napa. And it's amazing. I mean, like, listen, I always tell the boys, I said, if the apocalypse comes and you can't get to me here within a week, look for me in Napa because that's where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
'Cause that's about as easy living as it gets. And it's it's a gorgeous place. It's a great place to be. But one of the things that guy from Iowa was saying, and that I'm going to give him his due, and if I was in Iowa, I probably wouldn't vote for the guy, but I did like this idea. And it made me think, maybe I might eat that mayonnaise sandwich and vote for him anyway if I was up there. But he was talking about if you could take that corn production and put it back into native prairie land. They get so much rain in Iowa that you could basically shift the herds from the west back to the Midwest, and you put more cow per acre than you're going to put in Wyoming, where they get a third of the rain or a tenth of the rain that they get in Iowa. And you do that, you put it in native pasture. You've got all that native pasture is going to buffer. But
because that's tall grass.
It's tall grass. It's big blue stem.
And also, tall grass prairies are the number one most endangered ecosystem
in the world. Yep.
In the world.
And it is amazing.
But I don't know about that. What do you think?
So I'll argue that point.
Because I'm like, I think I want the. I don't know. I think them to take our.
And I'm going to go on two tangents here. Number one, I think a lot of people forget that they bring up the ethanol product, and they forget that the majority of corn is still fed.
It's going to cattle.
It's not going to ethanol.
Okay, they were saying that 70% of the Iowa corn production went to ethanol production.
I'd have to look.
I'll look it up.
Okay.
And maybe Iowa is different than because we have.
Because I know they were saying that Iowa has embraced biofuels in a big way, more than anybody else.
They must be importing corn in for hog production.
Yeah.
Because that was what I was saying. I mean, it's not just beef. It's beef, pork, chickens, all.
Yeah.
Yep.
Corn is a major food source for them.
And I think people are like going, we're eating corn and everything. And so you see pushback on that too.
Well, human consumption of corn. I know this about the predominance of human consumption of corn is through beef, or through meat.
Right.
Most corn goes through livestock before it gets to humans.
Yes.
Which is
God
bless the
little
people that love grain finished beef. I'm a big corn guy myself.
Exactly.
Okay, so let him continue to argue his point.
Are you going to?
Okay, national ethanol use, 5.44 billion bushels of corn in 24 and 25. 36% was for ethanol. So, by state, it's not giving me. Oh, here we go. Iowa, 50 to 65%. South Dakota, 65 to 80. Nebraska, 50 to 60. Wow, the lowest is Missouri, 20 to 30. So, and potentially in Texas, 100% of Texas corn in some years. Do you think that would be true?
I think that's got to be off.
That can't be right. They make whiskey.
Well, and I know,
look, goes to dairy.
And I know there's even, some goes to dairy, some obviously. I mean, I do know the reason part of that country's going to silage is it's cheaper to ship corn in and make the forage.
Yes,
for
exactly.
both the dairies and the feedlots.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But even that, then it can't be going to ethanol. Unless they're not calling that grain corn production, I guess.
Yeah,
maybe
I don't
know. So anyway, but so first off, a majority of our corn for the U.S. is going to feed stocks. Secondly, and I've heard this brought up, and I think it was a good point, was if you go back 30 or however many years ago prior to ethanol, the big deal was find another market for your crop.
Yes.
And the corn
100%.
producers found another market for their crop. Whether it was government subsidized or not, they found another market, and now they're being told,
why are you doing that?
You know what else they did, though, too? Like, I mean, they're not just that. I mean, like, they've released, like, they've found ways to use corn for clothing, for makeup. I mean, like, they have not just ethanol. They have really done some amazing research in using.
And I just now thought, okay, so part of that corn is going to ethanol, but then the distiller's grain off of that corn is coming back to
the feed. Yep.
So actually,
yes. So I guess what I think is, don't complain about subsidies for other things like solar farms or whatever, and complain about subsidies for. I mean, like just to be, if you don't like one for one, like. Don't like that. That's just my opinion. But,
I'll complain about subsidies for anything I don't like. That's my prerogative.
Don't mess with my subsidies.
If I get the money, it's not socialism. If you get the money,
another dollar.
If you get the money, it's socialism. But if I get it, no.
Elon Musk don't need no money. He's fine. He's fine. But
then on the grass deal. Yes, you could turn Iowa into grass, but I again, there's probably somebody that has numbers that differ with me, but you couldn't turn over the number of cattle.
No, because the grass is not as high protein as even ours
part
is.
Of the year, it's not going to be as even as high protein as it is another time.
Right, true.
Basically,
you
have a consistent when you're running those cattle through that deal. And I would say the prime example is our cow herd numbers right now. think what the price of beef would be if
Yeah.
all of those cattle were on grass.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
one of the things that they've helped this, and I don't know if people talk about it enough, the size of the cattle we're butchering now
Oh yeah.
are way
Way
bigger,
bigger.
than they were even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And they've been able to push that and maintain the quality through grain fed. Because I'm pretty sure if you took a grass fed as big as they're killing some of these cattle now,
Yeah.
we probably wouldn't be as happy
Better grind
with
that
them.
stuff. Grind that stuff up and mix it with something else.
So you know
Right.
that's where that has been adjusted. Now we can get off on the whole deal about how many foreign countries own our meat packing plants.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oofta.
Exactly.
100%.
That's where I feel like, our region could really be beneficial. I think, local production, we can't grow vegetables year round, but we can sure grow cows year round.
Yeah.
And while we don't have, I'd love for us to have some more medium packing houses, some
Yeah.
more cabinets. You know what I mean? Like,
And I don't know enough about the meat packing industry to
I think it's hard to make money, they say. Hard to be
get
efficient.
into. I mean, I think it's. I think you've got an economy of scale in there that's big, but that economy of scale, it could have been mitigated 20 or 30 years ago when they let them start buying each other up. I've got one of, and I mean, I'm going to tap on this soapbox and then get off of it, but the
I don't believe
people,
that.
the people that do investigate monopolies and stuff, have for the last 50 years done an absolutely god awful job if that is your job, you stink at your job. Go find another one and find somebody else that'll do it right, because it is criminal what they've allowed to skate by and say, oh well, that's not a monopoly. Like, if 4 people own 85% of an industry, that's an oligopoly. What do you call it when you got a small number of people that run everything? At the very least, let's change the definition then. If the definition needs to be changed, then by God, let's get it changed.
Yeah.
Well, and I could even take, I guess, that a step further. If we're going to have more competition out there, and I know there'll be a lot of people argue with me, but we've got to think about our regulations, because that's how some of these have been able to do that.
Yeah.
Is they can afford the regulations,
Yeah.
Right.
that a smaller
Right.
operator
Exactly.
cannot afford.
Right. Yep.
And we're dealing with that. A couple of things. We've had a really hard time getting pesticides through EPA the last, say, 4 or 5 years. Well, and I've been in part of some business plans where basically, when you think about bringing a pesticide to market, there's basically, it's almost, a regular bell-shaped curve. You start out not making a lot because you got a lot invested in it. Then you get to the peak, and then you go downhill. Well, if you had, let's say, a 20-year patent, and you could get that product to market in, say, 8 years, well, you had 12 years to be a part of that curve.
Yeah.
Now we're getting into a period where it's like 4 and 5 years. Well, now you've got to make that money back. You've got to hit that bell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
And
bell's
it's
got to be
narrower.
bigger.
Yeah.
So there's even innovation that I think is getting shelved, because it's like we can't make our money back
Right.
in that short a period of time with that product. And that's hurting, our
Right.
bottom line, what's available, potential future options.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we I know everybody wants to rail on the corporations,
Yeah.
but also if we want innovation, we've got to help.
And there's
Well, but I always wonder, but why does the U.S. have to carry the cost of all the innovation in pharmacy, in chemical development?
Well,
Speaking of the corn, right?
The corn
What
board,
they
I think
what-
it was the National
yeah.
Corn Board that came out
Yes.
was it 2 or 3 weeks ago, and compared the price of inputs in U.S. corn versus Brazilian corn.
That's
and
what I mean.
It was drastically different.
Yeah, that's what I
mean-
mean. And it's the same thing with medication. And my son takes a medication that would be $1,500 a month, and it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
No, and I don't disagree. And I think there's 2 things that go into that. Obviously, there's probably some opportunities to make money
Yeah.
in those situations that maybe they need a higher price here. But then I think some of those regulatory constraints.
Yeah.
It's easier to get a product. Like there's products they're using in foreign countries
Oh, yeah.
that we're still waiting to
Right.
get labeled.
Well, and like,
Yeah.
and it's funny too, like what they won't what they won't have, and what we won't have, and it's it's not the same. It's not the same list. It's so but I also think that you know we we're just in a weird, I think, place of like deciding where we're going to go with science.
No,
You know,
I don't disagree. And of course, I've always said this. I've said this for 30 years. Maybe everything's not perfect in America, but
Right.
do we really want to trust all of our food to come from a foreign country?
Well, apparently
even
we
from
do.
a safety
Right.
standpoint,
Yes.
not
I-
a political.
exactly, exactly, and that's why I say, I mean, if Layton and Frontier Market is a corporate farmer, or
We need more.
we need more. We need more commercial farmers like that around here, because wouldn't you rather go to him and buy your lettuce
Oh yeah,
than go, I don't know where it doesn't have that thing in it.
yeah.
And that thing now is in eggs, and that thing is in, right,
I was when you were thinking, it reminded me of being down in Mexico consulting on peanuts, and there's an insecticide that we would use up here that had required a Section 18, which is a special emergency use label, and we'd get it pretty much every September to kill aphids, and they were putting it in furrow on peanuts at planting down there to protect for thrips.
Yeah.
And I'm like going, can y'all actually do that? Oh yeah, we do it all the time. And I'm like, I saw what they were doing, looked at the jug, and I'm like going, 3 giant steps backwards here, like getting
Well,
back.
and that, and that's the thing, and that's what to me was frustrating, like with the EU, and like some of the things that they were like, regulating for farmers there, but they weren't enforcing that what was being coming in was under
Yeah.
the same regulations. And so, and in some ways you can see it's like with the, they can pollute their water very quickly there. You know what I mean? So there's some things, it's just location more than anything else. Like we've got to
Yeah,
protect our groundwater, you know. But for some things, I'm like, I don't know, that I think the one of the best things that we could do is incentivize more local production of edible food,
yeah,
and even local production of proteins. It doesn't have to fill the entire market. Just fill a portion of it.
yeah,
I think it should come from the Department of Defense.
yeah,
Don't bring it through USDA. Bring it through the Defense Department.
yeah.
They're the ones that have all the money.
That's one. That's one thing about it too, is that you go in and you start looking at our water. That's I'm talking about water's getting smaller, getting smaller, getting smaller. Well, there are places, even in areas that I know have quote unquote no water, that have got a 40-acre patch of cotton that's under drip that looks fantastic. I know one there's a place I know that does not have water for nothing, and they've got 15 acres of corn that's 8 foot tall right now. Sadly, it tasseled last week, and so
So
that's
hot, yeah.
not going to it
Right.
tasseled late, and so it got smoked. Haven't looked at any of the ears, but I would imagine pollination on it's probably not very good. But there's enough water. But I'm like, if you can grow that kind of corn, then you can grow a vegetable patch. But it takes a special mindset, and it takes a
does.
special person to grow a vegetable crop and bring it to.
You know
and bring
what?
it to
Our
market
grandmother
and
used to
sell.
always said, anyone can plant a garden,
Yeah,
but not just everyone can grow one.
yeah,
And that's why I think about Layton. I think it just maddens me that somebody who has grown, I think like 70 something different types of vegetables they have been
Yeah.
growing and trying, and continues to try. Shame on you for like ever complaining about anything.
yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, if all you've grown is grass, and that's with the help of Mr. Green,
Right,
don't
right.
complain about how a guy's growing vegetables too much until you do some science and digging in and pick up a hoe and go hoe for a while.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Kind of the old classical, don't complain till you've done it.
Yeah.
And then,
Yes, exactly, exactly.
But I mean, but just the mindset though of, a lot of farmers are borderline introverts, or either introverts or
Right.
borderline introverts.
Yeah.
And so that's and I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that's a pretty dependable personality trait in farmers that you're going to find. And they're not going to want. They don't. They grow a lot. Some of them will grow vegetables or food crops, but they want somebody else to deal with.
Yes,
I'll
sure.
deal with the growing and the harvesting. You deal with the selling.
Yes,
And
exactly.
Anytime you do that, you wind up with, you know, people that those brokers like that are just like everybody else. You got really good ones, and you got really bad ones, and you got the mass in between.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so, I mean, it is disheartening for a grower to grow a semi-load of watermelons, ship it to the dock in New York, and somebody at a grocery store says, "Well, I'm going to reject this load because
I saw a fly.
they either don't need them,
Right.
because they didn't sell the last bunch as fast as they wanted to. Nothing necessarily wrong with it." And so then the truck driver's like, well, "What do I do with this load of them?" And they say, "Well,
I don't know. Yes.
and then
Well-
the guy that rejected them will say, "Well, go around here. This guy will give you $1,000 for the truckload."
I know a
Yeah.
local farmer that they did, they took squash, unnamed grocery store, said grocery store rejected them, and then they couldn't even give them to the food bank because they'd been rejected by
wow.
the grocery store.
Yeah.
Which is
So-
back to my regulation
Exactly.
comments earlier.
Yeah.
But I
Exactly.
was thinking back to your point too that people don't realize because you think about growing up with the garden and say you picked a tomato or potato or whatever that had a spot on it and you cut it off.
You just
and
ate
ate
it.
Yep.
But trying to sell that,
Yeah.
you're out.
You're out. Yeah.
So
Yep.
bringing a product, a fresh market product to a consumer that they will actually buy is a tremendous challenge, and anybody
It's
that
like-
does that,
I'm telling you right
deserves
now,
kudos.
anybody
Exactly.
that's buying organic produce and that says, product of Mexico, product of Chile, product of
Exactly.
anywhere else,
Thank you.
and you
Yes.
look at it and it's pristine and beautiful, yeah, that's probably not organic. You better watch it a
Right.
little bit extra.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's just, and that's just, I'm just telling you how that's,
Yeah.
I've seen it. I'm giving you
Yes.
the benefit of telling what I've seen,
Yeah.
not anything else. But I mean,
and I think that's an excellent point. Yeah, they may have a law on the books,
Yeah.
and I think you brought this up, but the regulatory process
Yeah.
is not
Exactly.
there to make that law.
Well, and I think that I think that's part of people's fear about a lot of things here, and I think that's the fear with data centers. It's like, yeah, well, you might create some laws, but that doesn't mean you're going to enforce them.
yeah.
You know,
Well, I mean,
And-
we've documented multiple times the Texas Railroad Commission not enforcing what the laws that are on the books. Well,
yeah,
but I mean, it's a more complicated issue than
It is, like
anybody wants
everything,
it to
be.
wants to think it is.
right.
And I mean, even with our declining Ogallala, we still have the opportunity to have more 35 acre. More,
Yes, and Bright Spot, HSI, which is our wonderful sponsor, and they'll be here next week for the tour, so you'll get to meet them. And they have a farm in the La Mesa area that's been using their. It's not really desalination,
No.
and so I'm not able to explain it sciencey enough. Dusty probably can, but they've had it in California for decades, and they're just bringing it here. And that guy's the only one that has a crop. And I met the owner yesterday, and he said that he had 4 people come up to him in Seminole this week and say, "Is it your equipment that's out on his place?" Because it's working.
It's a sulfur burner. It makes sulfuric acid.
Yep.
Lowers the pH of
Sulfuric
water. It
acid.
helps.
And
helps
it's
clear
it's
out
small,
build-up in soil.
pivot size. They make them based on how many gallons per minute you have, and yeah, I mean
It's a cool rig. I
It's
mean,
a
it's
cool
cool.
rig, and it's I mean, I'm pretty. I mean, it wasn't any question as to whether it would work or not, but it's really nice to hear that it's like you can go see it now.
Right.
In
we
just
use-
in 1 year.
I know guys that have used sulfuric acid in the hill country on grapes. Every time they watered, they inject some of that, and it did help their vineyard. But they got some really rough water in some places down in the hill country. Woofed.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm
excited
anxious
about
to
that.
see
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
of that go out.
Yeah, it was really great to meet him and Jake, and we're having the tour, as you know, coming up. This is the last business day before the tour, so this is why I might have been late. I'm running around today as the chicken with the head cut off, as
You
they
might
say.
want to tell people what tour we're talking about.
We're talking about the NASA Space for Ag tour. So we've been mentioning it, and it's some of the top leaders at NASA and lots of researchers and scientists want to understand agriculture. And they want to figure out how can they take what they know about what's going on and get it into the hands of farmers. So we're talking about maybe we could start some classes that farmers could come to, learn some remote sensing tools, and get some training. But also we'll be talking about the app that's coming out, and there's a roadmap now where it's going to be hopefully by Thanksgiving, so that it'll be more publicly accessible by then. But everybody will get to see it here.
The amount of information that NASA
amazing.
has the ability to collect and does already collect is unbelievable.
It is, and to be able to, as a farmer, learn how to use it and translate it yourself. Your tax dollars at work, and you can do it
yourself. You're already paying for it.
Yeah.
But the coolest one, and I haven't done a deep dive into figuring out what everything that did. I don't know a third of what Tillery knows.
Yeah, I said last week. Now I can answer any question a second grader has.
Well, that's 100 more questions than I can answer.
Yeah. But the groundwater analysis they can do from space.
Unbelievable.
Holy cow. I'm not talking about like groundwater is like a lake. It's like the soil moisture. They can tell you if what your soil moisture is from space.
Yeah, at the root level.
At the root level.
And you know what? If we don't cut our budget, we have 3 satellites that will be amazing for agriculture, and it would be information every third day. You could then go, how dry is my silage? Every third day, that would be putting to you're going to be able to predict when you're going to be at what field. That's amazing. So call Senator Cruz and tell him to fight again for us. He saved the Earth Science budget last year, and we need him to do the same thing. That's his committee. Senator Cruz. Well, he's on the committee that does the NASA budgets. So, and that is the extent of my knowledge to what committee that would be called. All I know is he did that for us. So.
Well, I mean, it's obviously exciting. I mean, we think about all of the technologies through history that NASA's been involved in,
man.
And to see a potentially more focus specifically on agriculture, which also would, I think, falls back into defense, which I was gonna say. I've always thought that a part of it should come out of the defense budget for agriculture. Because
I think so. If an army marches on its stomach, right? You know what does a nation travel on?
Well, and I've always argued, I don't want to go down this track, but just like the Iran situation,
yes,
we do not have to have food as part of that negotiation, and we never have. And I think that has always helped us negotiate from a place of strength. I mean, obviously military plays into that, but we've never had to say, oh gosh, we got to have your corn.
Yes,
right. Or we got to have your
soybeans or cotton.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my gosh, what will we do if, I mean, even, Brazil has become the 8,000-pound gorilla, but we don't have to have their commodity.
Yeah.
Right.
Some of the other parts of the world do.
Yeah. Well, look at,
exactly.
I think one of the things that's always just boggled my mind was the amount of soybeans that's imported to China. I mean, holy cat hair. Like, we don't use a fraction of the soybeans that are produced in the United States. They all go to China. Like, man, that's a huge, I mean, I'm not going, and of course I know, next to, I would say next to nothing, but that would be a lie. That would give me that I knew something about the Chinese geography. I roughly know where Shanghai is, and so that is a China.
Well,
right?
I do know that they are. I mean, they have I think they have a better satellite than we do.
But to
tell them more data, and of course, they're not askers; they're takers. So they just go and take whatever data they want from wherever it is. So they know more, but they're never going to tell us, But there is a huge push of environmental cleanup and increasing their own food production. So maybe we'll get more. My boys are going next year.
Well, they got,
so maybe they can give us
remember, the biggest thing I've seen is the hills that are completely covered in solar panels. And they're building 30 new coal-fired coal plants a year in China. I mean, it's just, as far as like an energy, if you're talking an energy race, they're kicking our hind parts.
Well, they definitely, everybody's wanting to be energy independent for sure.
Yeah. But they got, I think it's 30 new coal fires and like 5 or 7 new nuclear power plants every year goes up in China. I mean, and I think we're about to cut the last one
I
down.
think we actually got off on China last week too. Like we started talking about this. Andy just said last week. He said we should call this the off the topic show.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Right. So, anything interesting going on out at the Grim Station?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the center has been one of the dry spots for the district
Yeah.
or the region. Unfortunately, we thank goodness, and I'll throw a shout out to High Plains Water District, who helped support our advancements in irrigation technology out there.
Yeah.
We have 80 acres, I think, roughly in drip that started 2 years ago. They supported both of those projects. We just ran, unfortunately, I guess it was last week, a 12-row lateral system that we have where we can water individual trials rather
Yeah.
than having to water, say, a whole pivot
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
or even a lateral. And so we can concentrate that water on individual trials.
Nice.
And timing wise makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Like say if I spray a pre-emergence herbicide that afternoon, I can water that in to see how it's effective and not have, because that even on drip that's difficult
Yep.
to do some of that. And they've supported all three of those projects. So shout out to them. Also, AgriLife Research at College Station has supported all three of those projects
Nice.
and put funding into that. So because I hate to think the situation we'd be in if we didn't have that 80 acres of drip.
Mm-hmm.
What the crop would look like, how we would have been able to keep up with it,
Yeah.
with the current situation, and so where we've got that technology, the crop looks pretty fair. I mean, obviously, I wish it looked a lot better. It's definitely showing its head, but and it's allowing our faculty to concentrate on things rather than having to lay out pipe.
Yep.
That
yeah.
type of thing.
Right.
I think our fields.
I just got cold chills. PTSD. PTSD.
Speaking of memories.
And so we've, I think our fields are cleaner in our breeding plots with that situation.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
we haven't had to till, and we haven't had to break that up. So I think that's helped.
Yeah.
Got some really neat projects going on. We're doing some stuff with ELS. The extra long staple cotton.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yep.
And the
Yeah.
hybrids that are a hybrid between
them?
those. I think y'all are probably aware there's 3 roller gens
Yes.
in the region.
Well, see, I knew there was two. There's one in Brownfield,
One at Brownfield,
one
one
at
at
Maple.
Maple, and one at Petersburg.
in Petersburg. Okay.
I believe is correct.
Okay.
Wow.
So
I mean, just as the guy that grew HS26 cotton, thinking about growing long staple cotton and ginning it at Petersburg is mind numbing. Like that's almost as wild as the first when I'm going through Kansas, seeing that first gin they put up in Kansas.
yes.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
that's really
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, because
That
for people
ELS
that
stuff
don't know, you couldn't grow
Extra
cotton
long
because
staple
it just
cotton.
didn't have the growing season for it, right? Then
No,
that's basically it.
And
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the way we can move cotton around now.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
much different.
Yep.
Yes.
We can even put it on a semi.
Yes.
And move it around now. So that makes that, I think, more practical. Because now I will say, amazingly, I talked to one of the gins. It wasn't going to take as many bales as I thought to make it work. Because when they were first going in, I guess I was skeptical, thinking, how are we going to get enough acres?
Right.
But I think they were talking in the neighborhood of 10 to 20,000 bales. They could make it work.
Well, there you go.
And
That's
so,
not bad.
Huh.
yeah, not as
Yeah.
much as I thought. And so now again, where we can move cotton from a lot more acres, because I know they were even bringing some in from Memphis to that gin.
Interesting. I'd love to see a roller gin. I've never seen one. Is it as expensive to put in as a what I would call a traditional gin?
You probably need to talk to John Wanier and ask that question,
Okay.
being a much more of a ginning expert than
Yeah.
me. I think
Yeah.
a lot of these, and I may be talking completely out of turn, are probably used. So I don't know what
Sure.
the cost
Sure.
type
Yeah. Right. Right.
situation versus say
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
putting in a whole newsstand.
Yeah, because the new cotton gins, big ones, are really expensive.
Oh, really, really expensive, yes. Which we
Yes.
get off on people
Right.
don't
Yes.
understand.
They
the
don't
cost of
understand.
equipment now.
Well,
Right, right.
That's another thing you talk about when you start bouncing to a different crop is the whole infrastructure you have to
Exactly.
do it.
I Lacey and I go places and people are like, could you grow this? And she's like, I can grow anything. I just don't have a place to take it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know?
No, that's all the minor crops. That's always been my concern through my history. Go back to like safflower.
Yep.
We can
Yes.
grow safflower.
Yeah.
but we can't necessarily sell it anywhere.
Yeah.
Right, right. Well, and I think too that's the other thing to think about. Like when we think about converting to grassland, is you gotta be strategic, because once you lose your infrastructure, it's gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
And somebody's not just going to be like, hey, I'll just put in another $20 million in, no problem.
Or a
Exactly.
grain elevator that'll handle
Right.
grain sorghum.
Or a
Yes.
huge peanut facility or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, like we've got to be strategic. I mean, it's going to happen, but if we could be strategic about it, wouldn't that be amazing? We could shelter that infrastructure some.
No, and you know that's a good point too, and I guess shout out to the state for the infrastructure funding that's been opened up this year
Yeah.
that hopefully can help some.
Do
of
you
those.
know? I haven't even looked to see what that money's going to. Have you heard of anything
I
exciting?
don't know if they completely.
I think it's gone.
Oh, have they?
I think it's gone. Uh-huh.
Okay, I haven't
I
had a
think it
chance to
is.
look. I'll have to.
Yep. So I got
That'll
a
be my
call.
weekend.
I got a call this last week. I mean, I got a friend that got a call last week that they got one.
Oh,
so
great.
yeah, so that's really great.
Yeah, so that's exciting and that the state sees the importance of
Yes.
maintaining that infrastructure.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
like you said, generally speaking,
Right.
when you lose it, it
It's-
don't come back.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You know, agriculture is expensive. Farming is expensive. I mean, tractors are expensive. I mean, if you just start at wherever you
Right.
want to on the list, it's all expensive. But when you start talking about the infrastructure in it, and somebody coming in and having to, payroll that, bankroll that stuff, holy cow!
Oh yeah.
I mean, it is amazing how much that stuff will cost. And, Brownfield we used to have a couple of different places you could bring. You could bring to Anderson Grain, you could bring it to Good Pasture. We could bring, we'd plant back in the days when you had to set us back in the days of the set aside program. You had 30% set aside, 30% was in a grain crop, and 30% was in cotton and a row crop. You could do that, and you could take it there. You could bring it to a couple places up here. Wherever you wanted to do it. You could stack it. Stack grain. We piled it in big old gigantic piles, and then sold it off as the market. In throughout the season, like they do more in the northwest, in the upper Midwest. But Good Pastures is no longer there. They got bought out by the outfit out of Amarillo that wound up closing down. So there's the Good Pasture elevator's gone. The one at Ropes is still standing there. It's still a showpiece, but that's all it is. And I'm assuming that this big stuff out here in Lubbock here it's functioning, but I couldn't swear to it.
I thought it wasn't functioning.
I don't think that there's. I mean, I knew people were taking sorghum to, like the Plainview maybe
Yeah, 'cause
area
I was
somewhere.
thinking it was like even
was the
maybe
next?
2 years ago was the last crop
think
they bought.
so.
I think.
That may be.
Yeah, here in
Well,
Yeah.
they can do what Oklahoma City did with theirs, and somebody bought it and put a climbing wall on the inside of it. It's like the world's largest climbing deal or
Oh my
something
goodness!
like that.
Well, somebody's taking
You
the
know,
helium, the old helium plant in Amarillo, and turning it into a event center thing. So always fun.
Yeah.
Always fun things going on.
But anyway, the neat thing about that project and the way we approached it is so we've got conventional upland cotton, we've got the hybrids, and then we've got the ELS or the Pima type varieties, and we're looking at and my thought was, and we've got a graduate student working on this, was what if a guy grows a Pima and for whatever reason can't get it, somebody say from South Texas to come pick it. So what if we have to strip it? And then if we strip it, what if we run it through a roller gin? What does that look like? Or what if we
Oh my goodness!
what if we strip it and run it through a saw gin because
Right.
that's
yeah.
what we just want to get it out. What does
Right.
that do to that Pima variety or that ELS? And then what if we take a better quality upland and run it through a roller gin? What does that
Oh,
look
my
like?
goodness.
Or what if we pick it? So we're picking each one of them
Oh, my
or
goodness,
stripping
how
each one
cool.
of them. Then we're running them through either a roller gin or a saw gin. Each of
Gosh,
those.
that's such a great idea.
That is
Whose idea was
brilliant.
There was a whole group of us involved.
That's
yes.
awesome.
A team
great-
of people.
Yeah.
Brendan Kelly, Ken Leger, Carol
Yeah.
Kelly, our breeder, all were involved in,
Yeah.
in that thought process.
What a great
John
idea.
Wanera
Man.
is leading the.
Well, make sure that when you come back on it, you got even you give us the way too early results.
Yeah, that'll
Yeah.
be fun to talk about. Yeah.
And then I get Cotton Incorporated's funding this project, and then we're actually going to take some of the mini bales and send it to them to spin.
Oh, wow.
That'll be really
That is
cool.
cool.
Yeah,
That would be.
I'm pretty excited about that. Katie Lewis is doing,
Oh.
and her and Joseph
Yeah.
Burke are doing a lot of cropping system stuff. She's working on some
Yes.
salinity.
Yes.
She's getting
Yes.
involved with HSI. I don't
HSI.
think she has a project in place this year, but
Yeah,
plans are to
that
move
her
forward
name
with
came
that.
up yesterday, and I was like, "You got a good one."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then actually we had a meeting just yesterday talking about defoliant and desiccation of cotton moving forward. If we lose paraquat, what do we do? There's a move where we'll have PPO tolerant cotton in probably the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, what is a PPO?
That would be your Ames, Sharpen.
Oh my
ETs.
gosh! So that pulls whole
Oops.
nother
So-
defoliant out of the
Wow.
out of the
So
mix.
if we lose paraquat and
and
the
AIM,
PPOs,
Oh.
the PPOs, yeah.
the ET,
Right.
AIM, Sharpen, how do we manage this cotton?
What you
Man.
have to do, especially if you're organic, you're gonna just have to do what you do down on the.
Well, we
You
may
just
end
wait
up
and wait
being
and
like
wait.
organic,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and wait for a freeze.
You may
But
just have
then,
to wait for
and
a
then the
freeze.
other project that we're going to work on is, so a lot of the defoliants have become tremendously cheaper than they were even 10 years ago. And so our idea is, can we come up with a one-shot treatment? Because now it's gotten that the trip is more expensive than the chemical
Chemical
in the
itself.
tank.
Yeah.
Yep.
So can we eliminate a trip by adding, say, 4 products into the tank and running one time?
Right.
And so that's one of the other things.
Well,
we're
one
gonna
of
be
the things,
looking at.
if they do get PPO cotton, and you can do the PPO and the glyphosate at the same, glufosinate, not glyphosate, but glufosinate at the same time, one of the best herbicide combinations to control weeds in the vineyard is, or it was AIM. I'm not sure. I think it's still got the label on it. I haven't used it. I've moved to something else, but
Right.
it used to be we used AIM and glufosinate together, and you talk about just smoking weeds.
Right.
I mean, it just does a beautiful job of controlling. And in a vineyard, we're not as on. I tend to not be as on top of it as I should be. So they're a little bit larger than what what you see. But that's both very exciting and very terrifying at the exact same time, because of the
Losing
utility
access,
of AIM
yeah.
as a defoliant, because it is such a good desiccant and defoliant.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Definitely
it's such
so.
a good one.
Well, this
At
has
low
been
use
great,
rates.
and we talked your ear off as usual, Todd.
Always enjoy it. and never knowing what direction we're going to go.
You never know. You never know with us.
Yeah, I'm
So
telling you, if
next week is Space Frag. If anybody wants to know, sarah-conservation.com, and there's right there front and center is the agenda. We'll be out at Todd's place at noon on Tuesday, out at the center
And we're
station.
excited to have everybody. We're
It's
really
gonna be
looking
great.
forward to this.
It is going to be. I really think that there's going to be some good collaboration coming out of this, and it's going to be beneficial for decades to come. I really think it can be. We just got to take advantage of it. We sure do.
I'll tell you, there's so much new technology, and there's so many things going that, I'd never dreamed that watching the technology move in ag would be like watching computers or cell phones.
Right.
But it's
Yep.
almost changing
Right.
that fast.
So we'll be at Todd's at noon. There by the what is the address out there? It's everybody knows where it is.
1102 East Drew is the 911 address.
The 911.
Yep.
I always just say, the one that's north of the airport.
right there by New Deal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Take the shallow water exit. And
There you
turn
go.
East.
Yep.
That's
You'll
it.
see us.
That's right. That's noon on
it's
Tuesday.
not the big thing
right.
on your left, but it's
Right.
the big thing on
And
your
about 11:30 we'll be at Farmhouse, the Armory in Brownfield. If you don't know where that is, you can stop and ask anybody. The Armory, it's up on the hill behind Coleman Park, and NASA's going to do. That's a really good one to come, like just public, for the public to come to. We're going to be having some extra food out there, so if extra folks show up, we'll have plenty. And they're going to do a couple of presentations out there, so we'll have some NASA slides and let people also see the app, and it's going to be great. So
I'm
if
really
people want to come.
excited about what they've got in there, and it's I won't use it near as much as what a big farmer could use it, but there's just so much that you can get off. That
I know
stuff.
it. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Thank you, and thank you, HSI, for sponsoring us again. And we're just super grateful for the time that Todd that you take and spend with us. And we're going to have a great time next week. And y'all just get ready, because you'll get an earful. I won't be here. I'm going on the tour finishing, so I'll be in Kansas. So we will.
Well, I'm hoping that Dwayne will be here next week. and we can talk fire.
Okay, Dwayne Lucia
Yeah.
will be here next week
That's what I'm
to
that's
talk
what
about
I'm hoping.
fire.
That's the effort.
Okay, so we're crossing our fingers. We've been trying to get him for a while because he's fighting
months.
fires.
He's been fighting fires. We've been trying to get him since the month before the Canyon fire, the one that burned
Yeah.
the trellis in
So
Canyon.
no
Yeah.
wildfires next week.
Yeah. If you want to go outside and light a fire, don't do it this
Don't
week.
do it next week.
Don't do it. Anywhere in the U.S. because
That's
he just,
right.
I
He
mean,
just goes
in
everywhere.
the last 10 days, he has been in Idaho and in Reno, Nevada fighting fires. So,
My goodness.
you know,
Wow.
he's been all over. I think he's been in Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, Idaho, California, or Nevada. I mean, that's just the ones I know of
Yeah.
off the top of my head.
Right.
And
Yeah, I think
so-
if you're west of the 98th meridian, you need to
You-
keep your
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Just don't light
cookouts,
fires.
in
Yes.
your pocket.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We'll see you folks again, or we'll come to you again via the airwaves next.
YouTubes.
That's right. Next time here again on KRFE at 12 o'clock. Signing off.